All right, Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of JMS who as well. Peace and salutation to the elect. My name is Arnon. The title of this video is Heapeth unto himself all people. Right? And basically, that's exactly what Esau Edom is doing in these last days. Gathering unto himself all people, trying to infiltrate different lands and take over those lands. Even Donald Trump, the cruel Lord, pursuant to Isaiah 19, as talking about, annexing Greenland and making the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, trying to take over Canada, right? And even infiltrate into these other countries and embed their spies into these nations. This is Habakkuk verse 1, right? The elder apostle, chapter 1, verse 1. This Habakkuk 1 and 1. Elder Apostle Hart brought this out the other day, and it's interesting, because we always go, or I always go to Habakkuk chapter 2, right, and get to the point I'm going to get to later in this lesson. But Habakkuk 2:1 says, the burden which Habakkuk the prophet did see. O Lord, how long shall I cry, and thou wilt not hear? Even cry unto thee of violence, and thou wilt not save. Why doest thou show me iniquity, and cause me to behold grievances? It says, for spoiling and violence are before me, and there are that rise of strife and contention. Therefore the law is slack, and judgment doth never go forth, for the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. Right, and that's Esau Edom, given to rule. Let me see if I can grab this. The wicked. Right, let me read that again. Habakkuk 1 and 1. It says, the burden which Habakkuk the prophet did see, O Lord Yahweh, how long shall I cry, and thou wilt not hear? Even cry unto thee of violence, and thou wilt not save. Why doest thou show me iniquity, and cause me to behold grievance? For spoiling and violence are before me, and there are that rise up strife and contention. Therefore the law is slack, and judgment doeth never go forth, for the wicked doeth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. Right? And the scriptures say that Yahweh ruleth in the kingdom of men, and set him up over whomever he will. Right? And that's the basis of men. Right? Job 9:24 also says that the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. We have Proverbs 29 and 2 says, when the righteous are in authority, people rejoice. But when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. And that's the current state we're in. Everyone's mourning, even these other nations. The Israelites are mourning so much more, but also these nations, that have to deal with Esau Edom. And that's why you have also, let me splash grab that. So, he asked a question. He asked, what did he ask? He said, it says, how long shall I cry, and thou will not hear? So he's trying to cry to the Lord about all the abominations that he sinned under the mix, right? And he's like, why are you causing me to see the violence? Why is that so? Right here we have Ezekiel chapter 9, and I'll start at verse 3. It says, in the glory of Yahweh, in the glory of the Lord of Israel was gone up from the cherub wherein he was to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. So the Lord, this angel came up from this chariot to the threshold of the house. That's what it's saying there. It says, and he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And the Lord Yahweh Bashmi Awashah said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. See, so this is why we're beholding all this wickedness. The Most High is marking us because which is the mark of exemption, right? And we're witnessing, so we basically have to go through the fire. That's one of the many reasons why the scriptures also say, take up that cross and carry it daily, you know. So read that verse 4 again. It says, and the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And abominations are being pushed forth by these Edomites. Right? Let me grab this real quick. This is Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10. It says, Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, verse 1, it says, a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what man of the man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. Right? So, pretty much, like I said earlier, what? Esau, Edom is ruling the world, and he's the wicked, and the wicked has given power over the earth, right? So the wicked push forth their their laws, their statutes and decrees and things like that, and it's all wickedness. As we can see, because we're signing and we're crying about it, right? It's not pertaining to the law, right? That's why Habakkuk said what he said. He said the law is slack. We'll read that apart again. This Habakkuk 1:4 says, therefore the law is slack, and judgment doeth never go forth. For the wicked doeth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. So all right, so moving on with the lesson. What I got here is basically Esau, Edom, trying to heap onto himself all people by, infiltrating China, So let's get a little bit of this right here.
The CIA is appealing to Chinese government officials and dissidents to share information with the agency, and they're making their pleas by social media. Scripps News national security correspondent Liz Landers joins us now. And Liz, these videos are just out on the CIA's YouTube and X feeds. So why do they think these are going to work?
The agency is hoping that the creative nature of these videos helps them break through, and they're hoping to lure Chinese government officials and dissidents who are looking to help the United States and share information with that agency. And so they have released 2 slickly produced videos in Mandarin that posted yesterday. So far, they're being circulated by the CIA's official channels on both YouTube and X. CIA Director John Radcliffe said in a statement provided to Scripps News, quote, today, the CIA released Mandarin language videos aimed at recruiting Chinese officials to steal secrets. No adversary in the history of our nation has presented a more formidable challenge or capable strategic competitor than the Chinese Communist Party. It is intent on dominating the world economically, militarily, and technologically. Our agency must continue responding to this threat with urgency, creativity, and grit. And these videos are just one of the ways we are doing this. Now, Holly, let's talk about these 2 videos because they are targeting different types of demographics here. The first video that you're seeing here on your screen is called Why I Contacted the CIA to Take Control of My Fate. And it portrays a senior CCP official who is concerned with the ongoing disappearance of other officials, which a spokesperson for the agency told me speaks to true experiences of people in the CCP. Then there's the second video, and this video portrays a more junior, mid-career Chinese government official who feels stuck supporting the career of his superior and feels like he's not advancing in a corrupt system. The CIA spokesperson who I talked to told me that this video is meant to highlight the growing divide between Chinese elites and the rest of Chinese society. And they're hoping, the CIA, to show that they can offer a different path for people going forward. Now, the CIA spokesperson told me that the videos aren't aimed at just being sort of spy versus spy and not solely counterintelligence, but they're also seeking to reach Chinese assets across a range of issues that includes advanced science, the military, cyber technology, data, and foreign policy.
Right. So verse Habakkuk, now we're in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4, it says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not right in him, but the just shall live by his faith. It says, yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell and is as death. and cannot be satisfied, but gathered unto him all nations and people unto him all people. So we can see that Esau is doing that even with the CIA trying to infiltrate China and make them CIA agents also. And these guys are going to talk about it a little bit too.
Under the Trump administration, there was a deep hope that the deep state was on the out, but it appears that there is a renewed focus on the attempt of the CIA itself to recruit, as the New York Times reports, Chinese nationals with new videos. It reflects a priority from the CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who has placed increasing emphasis on the agency's intelligence collection on China. So a pair of new CIA videos released on May 1st aim to encourage Chinese nationals to spy for the agency, appealing to their frustrations and fears with the government and its corruption. They're modeled on a series of videos the agency made in recent year asking Russians to spy for the United States, appeals CIA leaders said help develop new sources. Now, I want to actually pull up and play a segment of this just so people can get a feel. You know, this video is all about a frustrated Chinese official who is looking for a path out of quote unquote hardship and toil. Here is the video. It's in Mandarin and there are subtitles, so I'll play it on silent, just read those subtitles. I had to forge my own path, and there you can see him to do or not to do. The answer is obvious. We can no longer stand still. I refuse to lie down and took the first step, always the hardest. It's time to build my own dream. There you see the CIA. It's the dream. And there you see he said yes to the CIA. And here comes the message to join the CIA now. There you go, the emblem and all. China has experience with the CIA attempting to infiltrate its country. It has a massive anti-corruption campaign now. Is this going to succeed?
There's a lot of misunderstanding, but particularly these Western China-focused quote-unquote China hand has about China. Even people who have studied in China, who have lived in China, but work for these think tanks and CIA front organizations, they think that this ultimately this goes to that same mentality that was exposed in the Vietnam War era movie, Full Metal Jacket. Remember when the sergeant says, inside every there's an American dying to get out. I mean, that's still the same mentality that permeates these thinkings around China or East Asia. People still think, oh, they're just like everyone is a potential American consumers that's ready to join us. That's not the case. China has been, I think, the most pro-Western generation in China are the people who grow up in the 60s, 70s, and maybe even early 80s, because those people who witnessed firsthand, especially during the early 80s, during the open and reform period, when they saw emerging out of Cultural Revolution, they saw the huge gap in the material living standard between China and the developed West. And, many of them, turned them into like diehard pro-Western liberals. But for the generation that grew up after Cultural Revolution, I'm the first post-Cultural Revolution generation. I was born 1 month after Mao passed away. So from my personal experience, that life was getting better and better every year in China. But for the people who were born in the 90s, I was born in 1976, but for the Chinese people who were born in the 90s and 2000s, their experience was drastically different. They have been born into a much more stronger and more self-confident China. And their experience was that the United States was this persistent hostile power that's trying to kneecap China's progress.
Right, simple as that. Habakkuk 2:6 says, shall not all these take a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, and that thick clay is the debt, right, that America has accumulated. It goes into the Hebrew word abatya, right? And it speaks to America's debt. It says, shall they not rise up suddenly, that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them, right? So this continuing, provocation, right? Provoking of these different nations is going to cause them to rise up against Babylon the Great, right? The scriptures say that Esau, puffed at his enemies, but the scriptures also say in Joel chapter 3 that they will rise up against him. Let's see. The Joel 3:9 says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say, I am strong. See, so ultimately, that's what's happening. The weak are standing strong. They're not backing down. No more. They're standing up to what America is trying to do regarding this, CIA infiltration and things like that. And ultimately, they go on to say that it's it possibly won't amount to anything, because we're living in a new age where the nations are rising up against Babylon the Great. So I want to grab this Obadiah. All right, this is Obadiah 1, and I started 1. Obadiah 1:1, it says, the vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom, ye have heard a rumor from the Lord, an ambassador is sent among the heathen, arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. It says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. So Esau, Edom has been made small among the heathen, and he's greatly despised by them. And in this time now, the heathen, the other nations, are bucking up against Babylon the Great. It says, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. See, so it was pride that would cause CIA to try to infiltrate China here in these last days, as world tensions are, sparking up. It says, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the cliff of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? He says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, said the Lord Yahweh Bashmi Awashah. Right. So ultimately, the Most High is gonna bring down Esau, Edom, and his pride. Right. So that was quick in the news, pretty much what's going on, kind of short for time. Lord willing, we'll edify from the lesson. I'll say Shalom. So for elect, which consists of men, women, and children, Shalom.